We have to ask, if this goes south, are we standing behind the message or person and community that we've highlighted, or are we ditching it? Hey, it's Jaylen, and I believe there are some important lessons for entrepreneurs, marketers, advertisers from the last month of events, controversy, boycotts with Bud Light and Target after campaigns with or for the LGBTQIA community. And disclaimer, this video is not at all taking a position for or against the community. This is simply an analysis on how brands can learn from Target and Bud Light on how to and what questions to ask before and executing or landing a campaign in an affinity month or targeting a segment throughout the year. After more than 20 years, Bud Light has lost their position as the #1 beer in the US. Sales are down 24% year over year. Their market share is down from 10% to 7%, and shares have dropped 15%, while the S&P 500 is up 7% since the video with Mulvaney was posted just this month. Now, I think it's important to understand why brands and businesses participate in Affinity Month and these community-focused campaigns throughout the year. One, it's cultural and inclusive, making their employees feel known and celebrated and a part of who they are as a business. The other, and quite frankly, the most important reason why they can continue beyond culture is revenue impacts, the brand affinity, brand sentiment, and how much of this community is buying our product over others. For every dollar spent in a segment, brands measure these communities, how they feel supported, and the percentage of that community spend with that brand versus others, and the growth based on every dollar spent targeting them beyond a general audience, general market campaign. They spend millions of dollars measuring this specifically. This is not just sexual identity, it's race, its age and generation, its geography, and the political lean of that community or people. So let's jump into the lessons out of this last month. Number one, I think, is be data driven. A creative may have a vision, but it is important that it's backed or led with data. Who is our customer, and what might the outcome of this campaign be with them? Will this grow our primary base, or might they be offended? And if they are offended, is the growth potential of a secondary or tertiary customer base significant enough to make it worth the risk? Or culturally, is this who we are? Whether or not it impacts our revenue, whether or not it impacts community sentiment, do we want to make this stand in position? And if so, that's what we're going to stand by no matter what. Now, as the risk of a campaign grows, the need to engage more senior stakeholders grows exponentially. Ultimately, today, a marketer may be responsible for a campaign without needing executive approval. But as the risk and impact to the business grows, a more executive leader may need to be involved. In a case like Bud Light, knowing who their customer base is and what the risk ultimately would have been and was in the end, that would have required not only CMO buy-in, but practically CEO buy-in because of the level of impact it could have to their business in the way that we've seen it. We must ask, are we aligned on the potential ROI, that's return or risk in this effort, whether that's profit growth or the happiness and inclusiveness amongst our employees? Thirdly, we must actively monitor and manage the situation. As a campaign goes live, it is critical that we're actively monitoring the conversation and sentiment and immediate sales. If I made a point between 2 and 3 and call it 2.5, it would be understanding the potential outcomes of the risk and have plans for a response. So if something does hit the fan, we have options on how we engage versus behaving like Bud Light did and almost just firing people and going quiet and not reversing course, not making a stance, but just saying, hey, actually, we're going to just go into music and art. I don't think there was a plan in place on how they would engage if it did, in fact, blow up. I also don't think they had the executive leaders engaged in the conversations to be sure they understood what the risk was and how it could impact the business. It's also safe to assume that before the most recent event, that Target had a significant affinity and positive sentiment with the LGBTQIA community. As a whole, the brand seems extremely inclusive and focused on building relationship with various segments and communities. Target has continued to make a strong stance in the direction of working with communities and segments, But with the abruptness of their change in the most recent events, I believe they lost a lot of that affinity. Sentiment has definitely dropped amongst people that I know from positive to neutral or negative in many cases. Ahead of time, we have to ask, if this goes south, or if it does really well, are we standing behind the message or person and community that we've highlighted, or are we ditching it? And if we ditch this campaign, we must ask, are we supporting this community in any way moving forward, or are we ditching this entire stance completely because of the responses we received today? I will not say if one is right or wrong, but what is important is that you ask these questions ahead of time as you're assessing the risk of the investments you're about to make. As I said, these are just points to form questions and assessments internally on how to engage moving forward. We're in an extremely polarizing world right now. So if you don't consider the above and you don't create a 360 plan, you could be caught in the middle of a fire with your pants down and absolutely no water. Every business may not be entirely ready to engage in these campaigns. And quite frankly, some are capable and some must. They have no choice. But it's important that we ask the questions and create a plan ahead of time. And today's questions are not an all-inclusive list of questions that I would walk you through as a client with our team, but these are some bare minimum questions to start the conversations, to get the right people at the table, to get on the same page, to begin to make a plan to move forward with. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Please feel free to let me know in the comments your thoughts for or against. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm happy to respond to your comments if you liked it, if you didn't like it. And of course, like the video, dislike the video, and subscribe if you want more conversations like this. My ultimate goal is to create conversations responding to current economics, current business, current political news, and breaking down what it means to you and how you can engage that information in your life and in your business. Talk to you soon.